The laugh cut through the room like glass hitting tile, too loud, too sharp, and aimed straight at my daughter. My name is Evelyn Carter, I'm 34. When did love turn into something that needed money to qualify? My father's mouth was still open, his shoulders shaking, his finger hovering mid-air toward my daughter's dress. A pale blue thing from a thrift store, carefully ironed, the tag clipped off that morning. She'd twirled in it for me at home. Here she froze. If you're going to show up like this, he said, voice booming, you should have stayed home. Save everyone the embarrassment. The room went silent in that unnatural way. Forks paused, balloons stilled, even the music seemed to pull back. I felt my daughter's small hand tighten in mine. Her smile collapsed inward like a paper cup crushed slowly. I looked at my husband. He stared at the tablecloth. Said nothing. The cake candles hissed softly, wax bending under heat. For a moment, I swear the empty chair across from us looked like it was waiting to be filled, with someone braver than me. Later that night the phone would ring. Words like failure and begging would be used with clinical ease. But right then, watching my daughter lower her head, I understood something quietly devastating. This wasn't about money. It was about who he believed deserved dignity, and who didn't. The realization sat in my chest like a held breath, and I carried it all the way home. The car ride was quiet. No radio, just the soft thrum of tires against asphalt. My daughter pressed her forehead to the window, tracing invisible shapes in the fog of her breath. My husband drove with both hands locked on the wheel, jaw tight, eyes forward. Silence wasn't peace. It was avoidance dressed up as calm. At home, I folded the blue dress carefully, smoothing the fabric as if it might bruise. I placed it on the chair in her room. The chair looked like it was waiting for an apology no one had given. The phone rang just after midnight. You embarrassed yourself, my father said, no greeting, no pause. And worse, you're raising a beggar. I stood in the kitchen, tile cold under my feet, the hum of the refrigerator filling the gaps between his words. He talked about pride. About standards. About how some people were meant to struggle. From the hallway my husband listened. I could feel him there without turning around. When the call ended, I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I asked him one question softly. Is the trust still in your name? He nodded. Once. In that nod, something shifted, slowly, deliberately, like a door unlocking without a sound. The nod stayed with me long after he went to bed. I sat alone at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug gone cold, watching the reflection of the overhead light tremble in the dark window. My own face stared back, warped slightly. Tired. Older than 34. I touched the glass and the reflection touched back, delayed by a breath. The trust had always been spoken about in my family like weather. Something powerful, distant, unquestionable. My father relied on it the way some men rely on oxygen, never acknowledging it until it's threatened. In the morning he called again. I hope you're teaching that girl gratitude, he said. Because charity dries up fast. In the background I heard dishes clinking. A television murmuring. Comfort. He had no idea how fragile it was. My husband sat across from me, scrolling through his phone. When our eyes met, he didn't look away this time. I've never touched it, he said quietly. Your father insisted I manage it for tax efficiency. Full legal control. I just let it sit. There was not anger. Not revenge. Just fact. Our daughter wandered in, barefoot, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She climbed into my lap without a word. I felt her weight, warm and solid and real, and something inside me hardened, not into rage but into clarity. That afternoon my husband sent one email. No threats. No explanations. Just instructions. The house was still after he hit send. Too still. Like a held breath, finally deciding whether to become a scream. The quiet stretched into evening, thin and metallic. My phone buzzed once. Then again. I didn't look. I was busy helping my daughter with her homework, the scratch of her pencil loud in the room. She chewed the eraser, eyes narrowed in concentration. When she got an answer right, she smiled like it mattered. Because to her it did. The buzz became a call. I stepped onto the balcony, the air cool against my arms. Below, traffic hummed, ordinary life moving forward, indifferent. I answered. You think this is funny? My father snapped. His voice was smaller than I remembered. The bank says there's been a review. I leaned against the railing, watching a light flick on in a stranger's window. Somewhere someone was sitting down to dinner. I didn't do anything, I said. It was true in the way that mattered. He accused. He demanded. He reminded me of everything he'd ever paid for, every favor tallied like a receipt. When I didn't respond, he lowered his voice. You need me, he said. People like us don't survive without family. Inside, my husband stood in the doorway, listening without intruding. He held the blue dress in his hands, freshly washed, the fabric catching the light. For the first time, I noticed my father wasn't laughing. He was afraid. When the call ended, the city noise rushed back in louder than before. I didn't feel triumph. I felt distance, clean, widening, irreversible. And I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. The next morning arrived without ceremony. No dramatic sky. No sense of warning. Just sunlight slipping through the curtains, landing on the blue dress draped over the chair like a quiet witness. My daughter ate her cereal, swinging her legs, milk pooling around the edges. She hummed to herself, off-key, fearless. The phone stayed silent until noon. Then the messages came. Short. Disbelieving. My father's name flashing on the screen like a reflex I hadn't yet unlearned. I let them stack up unanswered the way he used to let my calls ring when I needed help. At 3 the doorbell rang. I didn't open it. I watched through the peephole instead. He stood there smaller than I remembered, coat buttoned wrong, hair uncombed. The man who once filled rooms now shifted his weight like he wasn't sure he belonged on my porch. He knocked again, softer this time. From the living room, my daughter whispered, "Is it the mean grandpa?" Something in my chest loosened. "No," I said. "It's just someone who forgot how to behave." When he finally left, I noticed his car was gone from the street too. Repossessed maybe, or sold quietly like dignity often is. That evening my husband showed me the paperwork. Clean. Legal. Final. I traced my finger along the page, feeling the raised ink. The mirror in the hallway caught my reflection as I passed. For once I didn't look away. The house felt louder after that. Every creak, every passing car magnified by what wasn't being said. That night my husband and I sat at opposite ends of the couch, the television on but unwatched. A news anchor talked about interest rates. About markets tightening. Ordinary words, suddenly personal. My husband muted it. He called my office, he said. Left 3 messages. I pictured my father alone with a phone, rehearsing dignity between beeps. The image didn't make me smile. It made me tired. A voicemail slipped through anyway. We listened to it together. His voice wavered, then hardened, then softened again, like a man trying on emotions to see which still fit. "I just want to talk," he said. "Like adults." In the pause after, the silence rang. It pressed against my ears until I realized how often I'd been trained to fill it. For him. The next day a letter arrived. Handwritten. Crooked. He apologized without naming what he'd done. Asked to see his granddaughter. Promised things he couldn't afford anymore. I folded the letter and placed it behind the mirror in the hallway, between glass and wall. Hidden but not destroyed. That evening my phone buzzed with a notification, from a distant relative, then another. Whispers traveling faster than explanations ever had. The community was noticing. And my father was no longer controlling the story. The air changed before the doorbell rang. It felt heavier, like a storm deciding whether to break. I was standing in the hallway, fingers resting on the mirror's edge, feeling the coolness seep into my skin. Behind the glass, the folded letter waited, pressed flat, patient, unresolved. When I opened the door, my aunt stood there, lips tight, eyes scanning the house like she was inventorying what had been lost. "You didn't have to ruin him," she said, stepping inside without asking. Her perfume clung to the air, sharp and nostalgic. "People are talking." I nodded. Talking was cheaper than empathy. She lowered her voice. "He's selling the house. Today. Quick sale." Pause. He cried. From the living room my daughter laughed at something on her tablet. Bright, unguarded. The sound cut cleanly through the tension, a reminder of who this was really about. "I didn't touch him," I said. "I just stopped holding him up." My aunt looked at the blue dress hanging neatly on the chair, freshly pressed, ready for another day. Her gaze lingered there, then slid away. Outside, a moving truck rumbled to life down the street. The past was being packed up in plain sight. And for the first time I wondered, not what he'd lost, but what he might finally understand. The mirror came down last. I unscrewed it carefully, the way you do when something has been on the wall longer than the feeling behind it. Dust bloomed in the air, soft and gray. The folded letter slipped out and landed at my feet. I opened it again. This time I read it slowly. There were apologies now. Real ones. Specific ones. He wrote about the party. About the dress. About the look on my daughter's face. How he couldn't sleep after seeing it replay in his mind. He didn't ask for money. He didn't ask for the house back. He asked for forgiveness. I sat on the floor, back against the wall, the mirror beside me reflecting a smaller version of the room. My daughter patted in and leaned against my shoulder. "Do I have to see him?" she asked. "No," I said. "You never have to." She nodded, satisfied. Then she touched the blue dress hanging nearby. "I like it," she said. "It feels brave." Later, I mailed the letter back with one sentence written beneath his last line. "Dignity isn't inherited. It's practiced." I didn't know if he'd understand. I only knew I was done explaining. That night I put the mirror back up. Not to watch myself, but to remind myself.